The little girl burst into the crowded auto shop with tears streaming down her face, wrapped both arms around the woman who had only come looking for a job, and cried that she had finally found her mother. Every wrench stopped turning. Every mechanic looked up. The exhausted single father froze beside the truck he had been repairing, his face pale with disbelief. The woman stood speechless, unable to understand why a child she had never met clung to her as if letting go would break her heart forever. What happened next would change all three of their lives in a way none of them could have imagined. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel to become part of our community. Stories like this remind us that sometimes the family we need is the one life quietly places in our path. Autumn Hartley had spent the previous 3 years trying to rebuild a life that had fallen apart piece by piece. After caring for her terminally ill father until his final breath, she discovered there was almost nothing left except unpaid medical bills and a tiny apartment she could no longer afford. Every interview ended the same way. Employers admired her honesty but chose applicants with more recent work experience. Every rejection chipped away at her confidence until she began wondering whether hard work was enough anymore. Still, she refused to become bitter. Every morning she dressed neatly, tied back her chestnut hair, carried her worn leather folder filled with resumes, and reminded herself that giving up would dishonor everything her father had taught her. That particular morning she noticed a hand-painted sign outside a busy neighborhood garage that simply read, "Mechanic assistant needed. Will train. Honest people only." The business looked ordinary. There were no polished glass windows or expensive decorations. Just open garage doors, hardworking employees, and customers who seemed to trust the place completely. The owner, Graham Mercer, was underneath an aging pickup truck when she arrived. Grease covered his hands and forehead, and deep lines beneath his eyes suggested years without proper rest. He was only in his late 30s, but grief had quietly added another decade to his appearance. Everyone in town respected Graham because he never overcharged customers and never repaired parts that didn't need fixing. Few people knew how difficult his life had become after his wife passed away from a sudden illness 4 years earlier, leaving him to raise 6-year-old Maisie alone while trying to keep the struggling shop alive. Graham lived by schedules. Wake before sunrise. Prepare breakfast. Take Maisie to school. Open the shop. Work until late afternoon. Pick up his daughter. Help with homework. Cook dinner. Repeat. There was no room left for dreams. Autumn politely introduced herself and handed over her resume. Graham glanced at it for barely a moment before sighing. He admitted that she seemed hardworking, dependable, and honest, but then surprised everyone nearby by speaking words that sounded harsher than he intended. He said he didn't need another employee nearly as much as he needed someone who could help hold together the broken pieces of his home. Running a business was difficult, but raising a lonely little girl by himself was harder. Sometimes it felt as though what he truly needed wasn't another mechanic at all. It was a wife. The sentence hung awkwardly in the air. Autumn understood immediately that he wasn't making a proposal or insulting her. He was simply exhausted enough to speak his deepest frustration out loud. Instead of feeling offended, she quietly smiled with sympathy. Before either of them could continue, the front office door burst open. Maisie had arrived early because school dismissed students after a water pipe burst in one of the classrooms. The moment the little girl saw Autumn, something inside her shifted. She ran across the garage, wrapped her tiny arms around Autumn's waist, and sobbed uncontrollably. Everyone stared. The child whispered that she looked exactly like the mother she remembered before she got sick. She begged Autumn not to disappear too. Autumn knelt slowly and gently held the trembling child, not pretending to replace anyone, only comforting someone carrying pain much larger than herself. Graham's heart broke all over again. He apologized repeatedly for his daughter's behavior, but Autumn assured him there was nothing to apologize for. "Children," she said softly, often recognize kindness before adults do. Those words stayed with Graham long after she left that afternoon. The following morning he called the phone number on her resume and offered her the job. Autumn accepted immediately. She learned quickly despite never having worked in an auto shop before. She organized invoices, greeted customers warmly, cleaned waiting areas, ordered parts, answered phones, and gradually even learned basic mechanical tasks. Customers noticed that the atmosphere inside the garage felt lighter. More importantly, Maisie looked forward to every afternoon. Autumn never tried replacing her mother. She simply listened. She remembered favorite colors. She celebrated small victories. She packed extra fruit because she noticed the little girl skipped healthy snacks. She repaired stuffed animals with the same patience Graham used fixing engines. Without realizing it, she became part of their routine. For the first time in years, Graham occasionally laughed. Neighbors began whispering that perhaps fate had finally decided to be kind. But happiness rarely arrives without testing whether people truly deserve it. One afternoon a sharply dressed woman arrived in an expensive SUV. Her name was Clarissa Vaughn, Graham's late wife's older sister. She had rarely visited during the difficult years after the funeral, always claiming work kept her away. Now she suddenly expressed concern for Maisie's future. She questioned Autumn's intentions. She hinted that unemployed women sometimes looked for lonely widowers to secure comfortable lives. Her words planted doubt inside Graham's already cautious heart. He hated himself for wondering if she might be right. Autumn noticed the distance immediately. Conversations became shorter. Smiles became uncertain. The trust they had built began quietly slipping away. Rather than argue or defend herself, Autumn simply continued doing her work exactly as before. She believed character eventually speaks louder than accusations. Several weeks later, Graham faced the biggest crisis of his career. A dishonest supplier delivered defective brake components that had already been installed on multiple customer vehicles. If those parts failed, lives could be lost and the business would almost certainly close forever. Replacing every component would cost far more money than Graham possessed. Some employees suggested quietly ignoring the issue because the defects might never appear. Graham refused. He announced that every customer would be contacted immediately and every repair redone free of charge. It would probably bankrupt the shop. Autumn spent 2 straight days calling customers personally. She accepted every angry response with humility. She apologized sincerely. She convinced nearly every customer to return safely. Then she did something Graham never expected. She sold the small collection of antique jewelry left by her grandmother and quietly placed the money into the business account without telling anyone. When Graham discovered what she had done, he was overwhelmed. Those pieces represented almost everything valuable she still owned. She simply explained that objects could be replaced someday. People could not. Word spread rapidly through the town. Customers who had once complained now praised Graham's honesty. Several local businesses organized fundraising events. Long-time clients prepaid future maintenance appointments simply to keep the shop alive. The community refused to let integrity fail. Clarissa watched everything unfold. For the first time, she realized how terribly she had judged Autumn. She apologized with genuine tears, admitting that grief had made her suspicious of anyone capable of bringing happiness back into the family she believed should remain frozen in loss. Autumn accepted the apology without resentment. Forgiveness, she believed, always frees 2 hearts instead of 1. Months passed. The shop recovered stronger than before. Employees felt proud rather than merely employed. Customers traveled from neighboring towns because they trusted the people inside more than any advertisement. Maisie flourished. Her teachers noticed she smiled more often, participated confidently in class, and no longer drew lonely pictures during art lessons. One bright spring afternoon the town hosted its annual family fair in the Central Park. Children laughed beneath colorful banners while musicians played cheerful melodies under warm sunshine. The entire garage staff attended together. During the community appreciation ceremony, the mayor recognized Graham's business for outstanding honesty and service. As Graham accepted the plaque, he looked toward Autumn standing quietly beside Maisie. He realized that every meaningful change in his life had begun the morning she walked through the garage doors carrying nothing but a worn resume and quiet determination. Instead of making another awkward statement born from exhaustion, Graham spoke carefully from his heart. He admitted that months earlier he believed he needed a wife instead of an employee because he felt overwhelmed and alone. Time had taught him something much deeper. Before anyone could become part of his family, they first had to become someone worthy of complete trust. Autumn had earned that trust every single day through compassion, sacrifice, honesty, and unwavering kindness. He then asked if she would consider building not just a future together but a home filled with hope instead of grief. Autumn's eyes filled with tears. She remembered every rejection letter, every lonely morning, every moment she questioned her worth. None of those struggles had been meaningless. They had quietly led her here. She embraced Graham as applause echoed through the park. Maisie wrapped her arms around both of them, laughing through happy tears because, this time, she wasn't holding on to a stranger. She was holding on to the family her heart had been waiting for. Before we reach the end of this story, we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced a moment when one act of kindness completely changed your life, or do you believe that love is built through everyday actions rather than perfect circumstances? Please leave a meaningful comment below and share your thoughts with our community. The following months brought no fairy tale perfection. There were difficult days, unexpected bills, stubborn engines that refused to cooperate, and moments when old grief quietly returned. But those challenges no longer had to be faced alone. Graham learned that strength sometimes meant accepting help instead of carrying every burden himself. Autumn discovered that losing everything had not been the end of her story but the beginning of a better one. Maisie grew up surrounded not by the memory of what she had lost but by the comfort of what she had found. Their home was never defined by expensive furniture or perfect photographs. It was defined by laughter around the dinner table, scraped hands washed after honest work, warm embraces after difficult days, and the quiet certainty that real family is built through patience, sacrifice, forgiveness, and unconditional love. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that sometimes the greatest blessings arrive disguised as ordinary opportunities, and the person who walks into your life looking for work may actually be the one who helps your heart find its way home.